Okay. All right. So we will get going just out of respect of everybody's time. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. We're absolutely thrilled that you can be here. I know my colleague Brandon has spoken to many of you over email, and he's very sorry he can't be here to join this meeting today, but unfortunately he's homesick. But we're glad you could make it and you're interested in learning about partnering with Love Food Hate Waste. So while this program collaborates with all types of organization, the focus of today's call is on government partnerships. So for anyone joining us who is not from government, you're very welcome to stay, but just be aware that some of the information may not be relevant to you. If you'd like to chat further about how we could work together, then do feel free to reach out anytime. So please go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat with your name and your municipality or government that you're joining us from. And if you're open to sharing, we'd love to hear about what compelled you to join the call today. What problems are you facing regarding food waste? What are your biggest pain points? Whatever it is, we would love to hear from you. A few housekeeping notes before we dive into the session. And please note that this session is being recorded. So if you prefer to keep your camera off, that is totally fine. And to minimize background noise, we kindly ask that you remain muted until the Q&A session at the end. And if you have any questions during the session, feel free to put them in the chat anytime and we'll get to it at the Q&A. So during today's session, we'll provide you with an overview of the Love Food Hate Waste program and why you might consider partnership to bring it to your own communities. Then you'll hear directly from two of our current partners, Metro Vancouver and the City of Toronto, on their own experiences. And then we'll end the event with a Q&A session with all of our speakers. So it's great to see so many of you on the call. I see we have the City of Penticton here. We've got Fort McMurray, Region of Durham. And I see we've also got a few more people joining from the waiting room as well. We've got Town of Cochrane and City of Regina. Oh, fantastic. North Okanagan as well. It's great to see so many people here today from all over the country. Thank you so much for joining us. So in case this is the first time that you've heard of us, let us start by introducing you to Food Mesh, the organisation that is now behind Love Food Hate Waste in Canada. Food Mesh is a social enterprise and certified B Corporation, and we design and deliver food waste programs that reduce, recover, and divert food from being disposed of in landfills or incinerated. And we work with governments across the food supply chain to divert food to its highest end use. Through our food recovery platform, we support circular food systems by connecting food manufacturers, distributors, and retailers that have unsold surplus food to charities, upcyclers, and hobby farmers. And we took over the management of the Love Food Hate Waste program from the National Zero Waste Council last January. So we've just passed that year anniversary. And as part of this program, we support municipal and regional governments' efforts to advance household and consumer level food waste reduction through behaviour change campaigns, research, and public outreach and education. So I'd love to hear, is people familiar with Love Food Hate Waste before this call? So if you can figure out the reaction tools, we'd love to see a thumbs up if anybody has heard of us before. So allow me to introduce you to our speakers. My name is Megan Cherpak and I'm the communications head at Food Mesh, and I oversee the Love Food Hate Waste program. I'll be moderating this session. And with me is our food waste research manager and resident food waste expert, Dr. Hayley Everett. Also here to share an overview of the program is our highly experienced campaign strategist, Pia Nagpal, who has been working with Love Food Hate Waste since its launch in Canada back in 2017. But I asked her, we're very gentle with Pia today because she's not feeling too well, but she is still here to represent and excited to present this program to you. So to kick things off, I'm going to hand it over to Hayley to provide some research context that explains why we do what we do at Love Food Hate Waste. So over to you, Hayley.
Thanks, Megan, and hi, everyone. It's great to see so many communities at this meeting that are interested in reducing food waste, and it's great to see that there's a lot of folks in the room who also have heard of Love Food Hate Waste before. Given the nature of your work, this statistic is probably familiar to you, but to set the stage for our discussion, annually, about 1/3 of the food grown and produced globally for human consumption is lost or wasted. And in Canada, that number is a little higher. Recent research estimates that over 46% of all food in Canada is wasted annually. While food waste in Canada is generated across the food supply chain from farm to fork, about 15% of food waste is generated at the household level. We support government's efforts to advance food waste reduction because households in Canada generate approximately 2.3 million tons of avoidable food waste each year. Avoidable meaning that food was at one time considered to be edible, as opposed to unavoidable food waste that was probably never considered to be edible. So things like coffee grounds, banana peels, and eggshells. So, in other words, this 2.3 million tons of food could have been eaten if it had been better managed. As I'm sure all of us in this room know, wasted food negatively impacts all three pillars of sustainability. Wasting food contributes to climate change. As a result of avoidable food waste generation in Canada, over 25 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent are emitted each year. Due to the unique ability of food waste reduction to minimize greenhouse gas emissions across the entire food system, global food waste reduction has been identified as the most effective climate change solution. Food waste also perpetuates cycles of food insecurity. While over 46% of food in Canada is wasted, 1 in 5 Canadian households are food insecure. And lastly, wasting food is expensive. At the municipal level, food waste places logistical and financial burdens on waste management facilities. At the household level, wasting food results in unnecessary and often preventable increased personal expenses. While we experience a cost of living crisis, households in Canada are throwing away about $1,300 worth of food each year, and probably much more than that with the continuous rising costs of food. Nationally, about 28% of landfilled and incinerated household waste is food. We have heard from several of our partners that this is a pain point for many Canadian municipalities. In communities without a curbside green bin program or other residential source separated organics program, over 50% of household level food waste sent to landfill is thought to be avoidable. Even in communities with curbside organics collection, we consistently find that not all food waste is captured within diversion streams. For example, a recent study was conducted in a large Canadian city with a long-standing green bin program. The researchers determined that about 30% of household level food waste was disposed of incorrectly. 25% was sent to landfill, and another 5% contaminated the city's curbside recycling stream. The researchers also determined that the majority, about 62%, of the food waste generated by households in the city was avoidable. And that's a really important statistic because while curbside green bin programs have been found to increase food waste diversion, these programs have not been found to be associated with increased food waste reduction. Because composting is often perceived as a positive environmental action, there is even some concern that green bin programs may actually increase food waste generation in some households. Communities can address this concern by implementing effective reduction strategies applied in conjunction with residential organics diversion programs. And together, this results in a highly effective green bin program. That is, one that results in zero food waste sent to landfill and a reduction in avoidable food waste generation.
This is where Love Food Hate Waste comes in. So, Love Food Hate Waste is a globally recognized and proven behavior change campaign that was created by RAP out of the UK that is designed to encourage and reduce the reduction of household food waste. The program is currently active in 10 countries and has been in Canada for nearly 8 years. So at Love Food Hate Waste Canada, we educate and empower households to reduce avoidable food waste through simple everyday actions. And we do this by communicating practical evidence-based strategies to a national audience through our social media channels, our website, and as well as our 2 annual campaigns that we host every spring and every fall. So alongside our national efforts, we partner with municipalities and regional governments from coast to coast to coast to change household food wasting behaviors. We do all the work of researching, designing the materials, and creating the campaigns. And then, if you were to become a partner, we would provide you with the materials and the support to effectively implement the Love Food Hate Waste behavior change program in your community. So by working together, our national efforts and our partners' local amplification efforts, these all result in positive collective impact across Canada. So here's an example of what the program looks like in action. So while we create content and lead national dissemination efforts, our partners can decide how the program will be amplified in their local communities based on their residents. And here are some of the creative ways our partners have communicated and activated the Love Food Hate Waste program in their local communities. So as you can see, some of our partners have organized informational booths at community events and festivals. Some have organized educational sessions, such as pickling or canning workshops. We've seen partners use print advertisements and decals on anything from garbage trucks and waste bins to public benches and bus shelters. And our partners often use earned media coverage, digital advertising, and sponsored content to spread awareness about the program to their local community. Here is an example of one of our most recent campaigns. It's our Spend More Time with Your Food campaign, which we launched in the fall of 2025. This campaign aimed to improve food literacy skills and increase the knowledge of best before dates, because recent Canadian-based research suggests that 23% of avoidable food waste is a result of misunderstanding these labels. So alongside our traditional marketing efforts, the campaign also included a 4-week consumer food saving challenge where participants received videos and tips directly to their phone or email with a new food saving action to try each week at home, a free 5-part educational webinar series, an educator toolkit to engage post-secondary students, a digital awareness campaign aimed at all Canadians, a PR awareness campaign, and a research study to evaluate the impacts of knowledge and behaviors around date labels after the campaign. So we designed a variety of content to support the campaign, and actually the next few slides will just show you some of the examples of what was created and what was shared with our partners. So you'll see some print assets, digital screens, social assets, brochures. Here's billboard. Again, we have a variety of digital assets that were shared as part of the challenge and webinar series. And then you'll see as well our similar to our national implementation examples, our partners use the various approaches to amplify the campaign in their communities. So here's a handful of what they shared. You can see a website there with the City of Toronto on the waste bins, billboards, and then some more collaborations with Reels, social assets, and transit shelter ad.
We evaluated how the campaign influenced household level food wasting. And to share just a few highlights from this research, following the campaign, there were statistically significant increases in participants' knowledge of food date labels. After the campaign, 75% of participants understood that best before dates do not indicate food safety. There was also a statistically significant increase in the frequency of considering factors outside a food's best before date when determining if food was safe to eat. After the campaign, 87% of participants reported that they mostly or always considered other factors, such as how the food was stored and signs of spoilage, before throwing food away. And there was a significant decrease in the frequency of throwing away food solely because a product's best before date had passed. 85% of participants self-reported that they never wasted food for this reason immediately following the challenge. We use research like this to ensure our campaign themes are evidence-based and rooted in cultural relevance. As a sneak peek, our upcoming 2026 campaigns will revolve around the theme of leftovers, because leftovers are one of the most commonly wasted types of food in Canadian households. This theme also aligns with saving money, a key driver of household food waste reduction. At a time when food prices have skyrocketed, food insecurity is prominent, and cost savings are top of mind for many households. If you were to become a partner with Love Food Hate Waste, you would be able to participate in our upcoming campaigns this spring and this fall and increase food literacy around leftovers in your community.
Right, so let's get into it. Why become a partner? Well, Love Food Hate Waste is Canada's leading household food waste prevention program. Our program is both globally and locally recognized. We are a small but mighty team. We have over 45 years of combined experience in food waste reduction, behavior change, and communications. And we truly are a trusted partner of many municipalities. Another reason is that the Love Food Hate Waste program leads to meaningful impact. So we have conducted research where 94% of Canadians reported that they are motivated to reduce their household food waste. And that is where our public outreach and education comes in. So as you'll see in our recent campaign, we saw a change in attitudes, knowledge, and behaviors when it comes to food management skills. 79% of participants reported that they mostly or always consider the best way and place to store perishable food following our campaign. Since generally most household food waste is avoidable, the amplification of our program in more municipalities across the country has a potential to lead to incredible impacts for our food systems, waste systems, environment, and the well-being of our communities. Another reason communities partner with us is because research is the core of our behavior change program. We collaborate with the international RAP community, academics, government departments like Environment and Climate Change Canada, and relevant nonprofit organizations to ensure that all of our materials are informed by the best available and most up-to-date food waste research. And Haley, who's been speaking to you, our in-house food waste research manager, works with our partners to conduct research that identifies when, why, and how food is wasted and measures those knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors that influence household food waste. In fact, she's working on a national study that we are about to launch this year, which I'll let her tell you a little more about.
Thanks, Pia. In April, we will be launching a national consumer-based survey to strengthen our understanding of knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors related to household food wasting. And this research will help guide the design of future Love Food Hate Waste campaigns. We will also be making the results of this study publicly available on our website to aid anyone contributing to household food waste reduction in Canada, such as likely everybody in this room. So stay tuned for that report to be published later in the year. And if you happen to see our survey communications in April, we would appreciate your support in amplifying our dissemination efforts. Our Love Food Hate Waste partners benefit even further with opportunities to contribute to research design and receive local level data that can be used to establish community baselines, tailor messaging, and design local solutions. This benefit would also be extended to you if you became a partner prior to the launch of the survey.
Okay, so what else, you ask? Our Love Food Hate Waste Canada's national engagement strategy prioritizes inclusivity, accessibility, and cultural relevance. So since the program's launch in Canada in 2018, we have reached over 20 million Canadians through our national programs, our social media channels, our newsletters, and all of our outreach efforts. To engage and connect with households across the country, we use culturally relevant and timely messages and imagery. And our campaign is delivered as a bilingual program. And our materials have reached households in 9 additional languages. And finally, communities partner with us because our program can be tailored to address your unique community needs. So whether your local landfill is nearing capacity, you're struggling with high contamination rates in your residential diversion programs, or your food waste reduction progress has stagnated, we host a community of practice with our partners. We discuss pain points and we co-develop future campaign themes and research opportunities based on our partners' feedback and input. Our team works one-on-one with our partners to ensure that our program materials are available in various formats. They can be customized with your branding and shared in accordance with your communication preferences, your strategies, and your timelines. So we will do the heavy lifting so that your communications and your teams doesn't have to. So let's recap. So a 1-year Love Food Hate Waste partnership includes new evidence-based digital content, which we release each month, annual campaign calendar and deployment toolkits, recognition in the program's national communications, one-on-one guidance and support from us, the small and mighty team, access to food waste research and opportunities for local data collection, an invitation to join our community of practice, and sublicensing rights to the Love Food Hate Waste brand. A partnership also supports the development, maintenance, and monitoring of the national website and all of our social media channels.
So that is a lot of us speaking and telling you about the program. But of course, the real value is going to be from hearing directly from some of the partners that we're currently working with. So with that, allow me to introduce you to our panelists. We have from Metro Vancouver, Alicia Drinkwater. Alicia is a communications specialist leading 3 major regional behaviour change campaigns, in addition to Love Food Hate Waste, as she works on Food Scraps Aren't Garbage and the holiday campaign Create Memories Not Garbage. She also serves as the communications lead for regional planning, overseeing agriculture-focused projects like the Regional Food System Strategy. And joining us from the City of Toronto are Jessica Yao and Siobhan Ramsey. Jessica is the divisional engagement lead for solid waste management services. She specializes in partnership management and has extensive experience in food security, literacy, and community food initiatives across both municipal and federal levels. And Siobhan is a senior communications advisor with over 16 years of experience supporting solid waste management. She's led strategic communications for high-profile initiatives, including extended producer responsibility, single-use item bylaws, and the city's long-term waste management strategy. So for this panel discussion, I'm going to put a series of questions to the 3 of you to help unearth what it's really like to be a Love Food Hate Waste partner and why others might consider joining this community. And so to anybody in the audience, if you have a burning question for our panelists, please rest assured that you're going to have time to put your questions to them after this initial discussion. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can actually see everyone on the call. And I'm going to start with you, Alicia. And can you tell us about Metro Vancouver's unique history with Love Food Hate Waste and what led the regional district to establish this program in Canada under the leadership of the National Zero Waste Council?
Yeah, absolutely. We have an interesting history with Love Food Hate Waste. We actually brought the campaign to Canada from the UK in 2015 and led its growth before passing leadership to Food Mesh in 2025. We launched the campaign nationwide because we knew that by working together, we could have a much bigger impact than doing it alone. And today we're still a committed partner and continue to champion the clear research-based messages that help build the campaign's foundation.
And so looking at the bigger picture then, Alicia, how does this partnership support the region's solid waste management plans?
Yeah, so Metro Vancouver's approach to waste reduction is guided by our solid waste management plan. It sets ambitious goals for reducing waste and improving recycling systems across the region. And these efforts are paying off. From 2011 to 2023, the amount of garbage generated per person has decreased by 26%, which is significant. An updated solid waste plan is expected in early 2026, so coming out very soon with a strong focus on waste prevention and supporting a circular economy. Everything in the plan points to prioritizing rethinking, reducing, and reusing before recycling and disposal. Behavior change campaigns like this, including food waste prevention, will continue to be a top-tier focus in this plan.
That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. So now I'd like to get the Toronto perspective. So Jessica and Siobhan, Toronto's involvement has been a major part of the success of Love Food Hate Waste in Canada to date. So I'd love to know how long has the City of Toronto actually been a partner of Love Food Hate Waste and what led Toronto to a partnership in the first place?
Sure. So we've been a partner with Love Food Hate Waste since 2018. So this was when the early days of Canada's National Zero Waste Council launched the campaign. And since then, we've been a strong partner with Love Food Hate Waste. So we've seen great movements since 2018, and we continue to work very in deep relationships with Love Food Hate Waste. So what led us into this partnership? So a lot of the work in solid waste management services is driven by the long-term waste management strategy, and it's identified food waste as a challenge for Toronto. So we do waste audits in certain times of the year, certain areas, and we do identify how food waste impacts how residents, their behavior in waste management, and how that kind of leads it into the landfill. So that's kind of what started this. And food waste has always been top of mind for Toronto. And to even add on to that, we have seen some great improvements with food waste. So, or found in our diversion numbers. So in 2017 to 2018, it was found that 50% of avoidable food waste was found in food in waste that was generated. But in 2023 to 2024, it was 48%. So we had a 2% decrease, which is always great news. So we don't know how, the direct impacts of these campaigns, but we like to, assume that there is movement with that in the work that we do with Live Food Hate Waste.
That's amazing. That's such great results and wonderful to see. And so, in terms of the impact, how have residents in your community responded to your outreach and campaigns in Toronto?
Very positively. So I would say that from even anecdotally, when we're out in public, we love handing out recipe cards, for example, one of the things that is provided by Love Food Hate Waste. So residents love engaging in very hands-on ways on how to reduce food waste in their own homes. So we've seen a very positive uh, take back from the campaigns that are sent out from the city and from Love Food Hate Waste.
Great to hear. So I know that it's always a big decision for a city to decide whether or not to build something from scratch or to join a national movement. And I'd really like to hear from both of you on that. So to all three of you, Alicia, Jessica, and Siobhan, what are the benefits of working with Love Food Hate Waste team versus doing this program in-house?
Well, it's a huge help having access to a ready-made toolkit that focuses on Canadian data versus data in the US or the UK. The messaging is clear, consistent, well-researched, and the team is very flexible to our regional needs. Using the same language and advice across platforms helps build brand recognition and makes the messaging stronger. Those repeated messages are an important part of behavior change and help reduce confusion. So Love Food Hate Waste already has a strong base of Canadian followers who are interested in food waste prevention, and it's a trusted resource for many. This is a lot easier than us starting from the ground up and trying to build that audience ourselves. It's helpful hearing the same repeated messaging, and it also helps partners learn from each other and reduce duplication.
Yeah, that's great. And how about you in Toronto?
Yeah, I'll start with that, and then Siobhan, if you have more to add, you can jump in. But I would agree and echo what Alicia has mentioned about brand recognition. So I think the international and global reach is really important, and that information is backed up, right? Like Alicia mentioned, where it's Canadian data, which is always important. I think that's sometimes we often hear things in the news that are, maybe based off the US or globally, and it doesn't always, ring as true to Canadians, but because this is Canadian backed, that's very, very important. The co-branding, I think it's the co-development, that relationship that we have where we're able to sit together at the table to talk about, does this work in, obviously Canada's a very large region. So does this work here? Does this work in Ontario? Does this work in BC and whatnot? And I think those kind of conversations are extremely helpful. And just on an organizational level, right? Having that kind of that very strong leadership behind Love Food Hate Waste is always why would that ever be a bad thing, right? Having someone to help guide campaigns and move us forward from there. And Siobhan, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, definitely. I think you and Jessica and Alicia have covered everything for the most part. But two things I would say really stand out from where I sit, in a communications role, and one of those is having the benefit of um, the ready-made assets that are provided to us. I think that is a huge help when we're already pretty stretched sometimes when it comes to a number of different campaigns that not just solid waste is doing at once, but the city as a whole. So I think that's been really valuable for us to have kind of things that are backed by research, have kind of been vetted, but look really good and really professional and helps us save a lot of time to get those kind of assets into market. And then I think Jessica said this as well, but I also, from where I sit, I really enjoy hearing from the other partners at the table. We sometimes get into kind of a routine sometimes with some of our campaigns. So hearing from other jurisdictions, other municipalities about what kinds of things are working from a communications standpoint. is really interesting for me, and I kind of bring that back and sort of incorporate some of those ideas into some of what we're doing in our communication strategies.
Yeah, certainly. I've observed that as well. The real people are very different in their journeys, depending on where the country they are. And so already I've kind of observed the benefit of being able to learn from those who are more experienced in this space or have who have maybe had an organics program for longer as well. So it's really nice to see that sort of idea sharing happening at table. So following up on that, I'm really interested. So you get these ready-made assets, but how are you measuring success? Like, how do you know that it's working? So I'll start with you, Alicia. How does Metro Vancouver measure success of Love Food Hate Waste internally?
Yeah, we use marketing metrics like impressions, reach, engagements, website visits to measure the impact of the campaign annually. And we create annual reports where we can measure the results and how things changed year over year and look at different performances, which creative performed better than the other. We also monitor feedback on social media, like overall anecdotal information, if they're finding it helpful, if they're sharing tips in the comments, which often they are, sometimes full conversations about how to prevent food waste are happening. In addition to the performance of the ads, we also work with a media agency that provides detailed reporting on the overall performance. And then also this ties into overall our regional waste composition studies and observing overall a downward trend in compostable organics.
Okay, and in Toronto, do you measure your kind of success of the campaign kind of similarly, or is there anything else that you're keeping an eye out for?
Very similar. I say we look every year. We'll look at web stats, same things that Lisa described, social media engagement. So we're looking at links, link clicks. We're looking at some of that anecdotal information where people have shared content on social, for example. Um, and then we look also because we do as a paid campaign performance. So we'll know through the various different tactics that we're using. For example, we had grocery store screens that we used in the campaign in the fall. So we can see, we had 1.8 million impressions over 45 screens over 4 weeks. So, happy with that. And it outperformed what we initially planned for that. We also use digital screens and we have measurement on impressions in, multi-residential buildings, things like that. So we're looking at those campaign metrics as well as web content. The recent data that I got was the page was we had average so the campaign assets in market were linking to our page and we had almost 1,400 views per day while the campaign was in market on our webpage. So we gauge that looking at other content, maybe metrics from other campaigns. So we know that for us that's pretty successful.
And then you want to add, Jessica?
No, I think Siobhan's covered that one pretty well.
That's yeah, that's fantastic, and a really great way to get insight into how those assets are working. So I'd like to just switch gears and talk about how the partnership is actually impacting the people who are living and working in your areas. Because obviously, views and stuff is one thing, but how are people, what impact is this going to be having to folks locally? So I'll start with you, Toronto. So how does the City of Toronto, its residents, businesses, government departments benefit from this partnership?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our educational campaigns have helped residents really understand the importance of food waste reduction. And as I mentioned, when we're out doing outreach, tabling at events, at booths, we'll have tips and recipe cards, right, for residents to pick up on how to manage their food at home. So utilizing surplus produce in a sustainable way, taking recipe cards, learning how to just reuse different items for repurposing for different things, right? So obviously this is saving families money. So there's been an estimate of approximately $1,000 from families from unused and discarded food. And our audits show that approximately 100 kilograms of avoidable food waste does end up in our landfills. And as I mentioned before, there was that 2% reduction, right, between 2017 to 2018 to our most recent audit in 2023 to 2024. So that's really positive. So we'd like to think that that is kind of based on the education and outreach that we have been doing throughout those years. And also understanding, I think these campaigns really help residents and businesses understand food waste and how to prevent it. And it encourages more participation in the green bin program. So we've had this program for quite a long time in the city, but it's continuous, right? We're always having new residents join our city. So continuing that education and outreach is always very, very positive. And yeah, so and I think it's just a combination of the campaigns, the outreach efforts that are happening from Love Food Hate Waste, and as well as internally from the city, that continues to build on that messaging to really bring it home for managing food waste.
That's great. Thank you. And similarly to you, Alicia, how does Metro Vancouver and everyone involved benefit from this partnership?
I think waste is a huge regional issue, and I think that everyone is benefiting, even when it comes to the lack of landfill space here. We're really running out of landfill space. But compostable organics decreased from 28% in 2021 to 22% in 2024 of the total waste disposed of in the region. And this corresponds to a reduction of 87 kilograms to 70 kilograms per person per capita amounts over the same period, which is really cool. The observed reductions overlap with the period in which Metro Vancouver actively delivered the Love Food Hate Waste campaign messaging tools and campaigns intended to reduce food waste. And while many factors contribute to reduced food waste, like our organics disposal bans and our food scraps recycling green bin campaign, Metro Vancouver's participation in Love Food Hate Waste supports our behavior change campaigns efforts across the region in preventing avoidable household food waste.
That's quite staggering, actually, to hear those metrics. So,
Yeah,
and congratulations to Metro Vancouver for making such great headway on that.
thank you.
And I'm interested because I know that Toronto answered this already, but how have residents in Metro Vancouver responded to the program implementation? Have you received much feedback from folks on how they like the materials that you're putting out?
Yeah, I've noticed a growing sense of community in the comment sections of our social media. People are talking to each other, sharing their own food waste reduction strategies and cheering each other on. It's really a breath of fresh air compared to some of our other more dry government content. There's a lot of people just really helping each other out, sharing each other tips like, oh, those tea bags are still good. They're not expired. You can eat those or use them anytime or eat those canned foods. Municipal partners across the region continue to be involved. They share Love Food Hate Waste partner content on their social media channels and help amplify the message. And we also receive very positive and supportive comments at outreach events like an apple festival that we participated in. And we also participate in the annual Pacific National Exhibition Fair. We gave out some ugly rescued apples, and people really enjoyed that, particularly that they were local apples. And that was really cool. All apples were eaten and disappeared.
We at Food Mesh, we love ugly fruits and vegetables, so that is music to my ears. All right, so just to wrap this discussion up, I'd love to kind of think of some of the best of moments and how others might follow your lead. So, what are some highlights from Love Food Hate Waste long partnership for Metro Vancouver?
Yeah, we continue to see great results from our annual digital campaign, and we work with social media influencers. The influencers have been a huge lift up for the campaign in terms of engagements. They're driving probably about 90% of engagements. We love working with them because they get so creative with the content, make it their own, turn it into engaging tips, and the performance has been really great. We use Love Food Hate Waste assets to run digital ads that link back to resources on the Love Food Hate Waste website. Especially, we use the A to Z food storage guide and the 5 Ways With series. And as I mentioned, the highlight of last year was the annual Peony exhibit where we gave out the imperfect apples. It created a lot of great conversations about food waste, and people seem to walk away with memorable messaging.
Fantastic. And for Jessica and Siobhan, what are some of the City of Toronto's highlights from the partnership over the long time you've been working with us?
Yeah, I'll jump us off, Siobhan. But I would say we have a dedicated website about food waste reduction. That's always pretty key in our messaging, and we are able to direct people straight somewhere to get all of their information. Of course, as we've mentioned, multiple social media campaigns, allowing access to downloadable recipe cards and many other resources, and being able to share national messaging on such an important topic. The consistency really helps with nailing that messaging across and into people's homes directly. And the partnership has just really allowed us to work with organizations around the table, and to really just have those conversations and to share with everyone around the country, which I think is just one of our most valuable things that we're able to take away from our partnership.
Super. Siobhan, anything you wanted to add to that?
Um, No, I think Jessica's pretty much covered it there. I think the again we were very conscious. Someone mentioned earlier that as landfill space is running out. I think that the more opportunities that we have to tell people um, you know w- how to avoid putting stuff into landfill is really great. And we do have a really robust green bin program here as well. But we're talking about use your green bin program for unavoidable food waste. That's optimal. So I think working with Love Food Hate Waste, we're able to kind of complement those kinds of messages as well and help people, you know, not throw out stuff that they don't need to throw out. And, if you still have eggshells and things like that, then sure, that's what you can be putting into your green bin if needed. So
Fantastic. Although I did recently learn that if you crush up the eggshells and put them around your plants, it's an excellent fertilizer. I don't know if anybody else
yes,
has
I've
tried
heard that too. Yes.
that. Brilliant. Thank you. So just finally, my last question for you before we turn it over to folks on the call to ask their questions. What advice would you offer to another municipal or regional government that's interested in addressing household level food wasting? So I'll start with Alicia on that one.
Yeah, with the rising cost of food, there's never been a better time to emphasize food waste prevention. The messaging seems to resonate particularly well right now, and using consistent, timely messaging across your channels is really beneficial. Love Food Hate Waste has a wealth of great information on their website, including lots of tips and recipes to use. There's so many resources you can use, no matter what the season is or what your event is. I do recommend maintaining some kind of budget for boosting your content on social media and maximizing reach in your individual communities. It's a huge help, even just having $300 towards boosting really lifts up whether you're working with influencers or whatever paid campaigns you're doing. It helps a lot to be able to do that. And social media influencers, as I mentioned before, are a great way to boost engagement and reach new audiences that you as a government would not particularly have access to.
Thank you. And in Toronto, what would be your advice to any other government looking to address food waste?
Yeah, I would echo what Alicia said. One of your actually about talking about costs, that was my first note as well about that. I think yes, definitely cost savings is one of those things that I think is really hitting home to a lot of Canadians right now for many reasons. But addressing that is always really important. It's a low hanging fruit to get to, but. Looking at behavior change, I think starting within families, educating young people is really one way to also start that conversation. Of course, meal planning, right? That I think that kind of just links in with all of that. And to add to that, I think understanding the full picture of where food comes from is really important. I think there's often a disconnect in our culture where we sometimes just go to a grocery store and just expect things, that are out of season that don't really aren't grown, in the region just to appear on the shelves. So I think just having a full understanding of the whole cycle really kind of personalizes that experience and our connection to food. And then one last final advice I would say is maybe look at food waste with a culture specific lens to it, which, Megan has mentioned this is something that we do look at together, right? With being partners at Love Food Hate Waste. So that to me is very important because, of course, we have so many different perspectives on food, right? The way we approach it, the way food is consumed and whatnot. So those are very important things that I think are top of mind for Toronto.
Thank you, Siobhan. Anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, and just to extend on that too, I would say that we're highly conscious too that this is a message. I think people take sometimes food is what people need every day and need to sustain, but they're not always thinking about the wasteful side of it. And I think the economic thing that everyone's touched on is certainly something that's resonating with the audience in Toronto for sure. So, knowing your audience, understanding kind of what will what they'll retain, or what kind of messaging will benefit the most. And then also with that, then we are very conscious to do things in multiple languages. So we're always trying to make sure that we're reaching some of those newer Canadians, maybe people that aren't intaking media in English all the time, or French, or whatever the main languages is in your community, and sort of extending it so that campaign can reach them, campaigns can reach them as well.
Yeah, and I know one of you mentioned previously as well about how, you're constantly having new people moving to your areas as well. And so you can't assume knowledge. People have different baseline knowledge depending on where they're coming from. And so that kind of education has to be just continual. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all three of you for answering my questions. And we do have 15 minutes now, and I'd love to hear from folks on this call for any of your burning questions to any of our panelists here from Metro Vancouver and the city, as well as from the Love Food Hate Waste team. I do see we have one in the chat, but I invite anybody who would like to put their question in the chat, please do feel free to do so. You're also welcome to raise your hand and you can ask your question aloud. But for now, while you're thinking that over, I'll go to Emily's question. She's wondering how City Council and leadership has responded to the partnerships. Have the benefits to working with partners versus in-house communications been appreciated by them? So I wonder if either of you three, this is obviously directed at you, if any of you have any feedback on that.
I can say that, sorry, I thought I just muted myself. I think, and I'd have to kind of go back into my memory here, but I'm pretty sure one of our city council members here in Toronto was a huge advocate, maybe even part of the Zero Waste Council at one time. So I think we've always had really good support from the city council level. I think generally speaking, the theme, as I mentioned earlier, runs through this notion that we don't have unlimited landfill space. So I think anything that we're doing to help communicate how to not send, how to keep things out of landfill, is very well received. So from a city council or elected official perspective, I think they're quite pleased that we're making those efforts to communicate this out to residents and businesses across Toronto.
Great. And Alicia, have you had any feedback from leadership in Metro Vancouver?
Yeah, we actually run these quarterly regional communications advisory groups, and these help us give updates to all the different municipalities within the overall Metro Vancouver jurisdiction. So every time we run a campaign or even participate in Food Waste Action Week, we send updates about what we're doing, and we make sure that it goes through to the applicable channels for all these various governments. And the feedback has always been positive, and we see local governments using our assets, at least sharing it on social media, and asking like when my next posts are up, wanting to know the schedule. So it's been really supportive, and I think that we're in a time where people and governments appreciate the high cost and that we absolutely have to do something about the lack of landfill space. So I think it is a good time for this.
You mentioned the landfill space a couple of times, Alicia. I wonder if that's a point of concern for other folks on the call. Thank you for your answers there. If anybody else has any questions, now is your chance. Please raise your hand. Oh, we've got one here from Terry. Have you received any pushback or feedback from food sellers? What messaging have you used to address concerns? That's an interesting question. Is that directed at government for our folks? Anybody? I wonder if anybody has any response to that specifically.
Just discussing like with the economics around it, and also people with profit margins and things like that. And in Penticton, of course, it's a little bit smaller than Toronto and Vancouver, but just trying to get the messaging across, not to consume as much. The concern, if you guys have ever heard or addressed any concerns from local food sellers that maybe asking people not to consume as much might be of concern as well. So I'm just wondering if anybody's gotten any feedback as in regards to that.
That's a great question, Terry. Thank you. Does anybody want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this will help you, Terry, but I think that's an interesting nuance because I don't think that we've been a partner for a number of years, and I can't think of a campaign where we said really necessarily buy less. So we're not really starting on that premise. We're starting with, eat what you buy. So we're not, deterring people from shopping. We're not saying, and yes, I mean, there are things, we'll be talking about leftovers this year, but it doesn't mean that you can't go and still buy what you're going to buy. It just means consume what you have. So from where I sit, I don't know if Alicia or Jessica have anything to add to that, but I haven't heard anything from food sellers or companies. I think at one time there was even a partnership with a grocery store. I think when we first started way back, I think Pia, do you remember that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
back in
right.
2018 or 2019 or
That's
something.
right.
Yeah. So there
Yes.
wasn't, so that it wasn't something that was a concern for them, I don't think.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, we've had the messaging, Terry. It's a great question because you're right that that is a question, and we have had retailers who have partnered before. I mean, obviously today's conversation was tailored at municipalities, but there's been a number of other partners who have joined Love Food Hate Waste as well, from retailers to nonprofits to other aligned organizations. But yeah, I mean, the messaging has always been about how to make your food go further. So, and again, now with the affordability crisis and just the rising costs of food, it's always about how to plan things out, how to make sure you're storing and using everything up, and how to really get creative. So it's, we stick to those three key strategies, and it's no different. The retailers want you to use up their food as well. So
Awesome. Thank
great
you.
question.
Anybody else have any questions? I haven't seen anyone coming in the chat, but I'd like to open the floor for anyone if you'd like to take yourself off mute and put any questions for any of our speakers. I wonder if people are hoping for an extra 10 minutes back in their day and staying silent. All right, I'll just give it another minute or two before I wrap it up. And if anybody does have any questions that are not coming to them right now, then you can always send a message to us, the Love Food Hate Waste team, and we will either direct it to the relevant speaker or answer it as best as we can. So don't feel that too on the spot. So unless anybody does have anything they wanted to ask, maybe at this point is an opportunity to wrap it up. Actually, Dennis, I've seen you come off mute. Does that mean you're looking to ask a
Yeah, I
question?
do have one curiosity question. So your program is based on a partnership model,
Yeah.
obviously with Vancouver and Toronto and stuff. So is your program prorated depending on the size of the municipality? I mean, would Penticton have a different rate, or is your system based on one particular model?
I mean, that's an excellent question, Dennis, and I'm sure that's top of mind for many people as well. And yes, that's exactly right. We want to make this program as accessible to people as we absolutely can, and to do that, we do the cost of the partnership is adjusted according to the size of the municipality. So a much smaller region like Penticton would be on a very different pay rate than say a large urban area. So yes. In answer to your question, it is adjusted according to size. And if that is something you'd like to discuss further, we'd love to have a separate conversation with you about what that looks like. But yeah, really good question, Dennis.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes, the question from Matt, will the recording be available to be shared afterwards? Absolutely, it will. I understand that scheduling kind of can be tricky for people, so we will make this recording available for people to watch back. So if anybody in your teams missed it and would like to listen back, that option is available. We will publish it on our website. I'm not quite sure exactly how else we might share it, but we'll put our heads together and make sure. Maybe we'll send an email to everybody who registered. I think that's probably a good next step with the link so that you can watch back. We do have a very quick survey just for you to share your feedback and let us know if you're interested in kind of pursuing the conversation. So the link is in the chat there. So do take a moment if you can just to complete that. We can also include that in the email that we follow up with you on. But I am glad to give you 5 extra minutes back in your day. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. We'd love to hear from anybody who would like to discuss this further. And sincere thanks to our speakers as well, Alicia, Siobhan, and Jessica, for joining us and sharing your insights. It's been incredibly helpful. And lots of things I was jotting down there that I must remember. So really good pearls of wisdom. So thank you for that. And I wish you all a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.